Did you guys screens just change?
No.
My screen's the same.
Mine just shrunk. I'm gonna have to try and fix that.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Now it's back.
That
was the weirdest thing. I wonder if it'll be like that on the video for anyone watching on YouTube.
Our legions of YouTube fans.
We actually get a lot of YouTube views every single month.
Do we really?
Sometimes we get more YouTube views than we get podcast downloads, and I know like none of those things are really. It's like batting average; they're not real numbers. They don't tell the full story, but yeah.
I'm shocked. Who watches us on YouTube? If you're out there, write to us or something and tell us, because I'm fascinated.
Mama will put us on
YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just assumed she would do just audio.
Well, she does YouTube on the TV in the other room.
Oh, and then listens, but it's through YouTube. Okay, I see. All right.
Can you imagine how pixelated our faces must look?
Oh, it's got to be horrible. It's got to be terrible. But you know what? It's probably good for us. We probably look a lot better than we otherwise would. So, although I really want to see a pixelated image of when Matt does that face that I love, with the million chins. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The pixelated version of that on YouTube on a TV is probably really funny.
Yeah. It exists. It's called the Numa Numa song.
Fair enough. Yeah. Amazing.
Well, I mean, now people have to turn on YouTube and look at that.
It's just a nugget for the loyal fans.
Yep, that's right.
What are you drinking, boys?
Ooh, that's good.
I'm actually kind of excited about mine. It's from a brewery, a Colorado brewery I've been wanting to try for ages. That I finally got some of that Matt mentioned quite a long time ago on the pod when we talked about Colorado breweries. And we had a party over the weekend this past Saturday for a Slavic folk festival called Maslenica, which is like a crepe-based holiday. It's really quite interesting.
Ooh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah. Literally, they have a fucking holiday about like eating a bunch of crepes and celebrating the end of winter, basically. And so we just had a bunch of people over, and I bought some beer just in case, and turns out nobody ended up having any. But one thing that I got that I'm now trying is the Dunkel from Bierstadt Lagerhaus.
Bierstadt, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I've been wanting to try them for ages. I mean, Matt, they're kind of on the map, right, in terms of the breweries nowadays who are like focusing on the on like the lagers and shit, right? I mean, they're known.
Yes, they are very well known for their crispy boys.
Yeah. What would we call that? Like pure styles, traditional styles, or do we just say lagers? Like, what's a good umbrella term?
Traditional styles, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm drinking it in my my Hoppenheimer glass from Bathtub Row Brewing. And look at that beautiful dark color. I love a Dunkel when it comes to traditionals. And it's really tasty. And I got this from the local grocery store that carries Casey as well, and like Outer Range and Cerebral. I mean, it's such a good selection. Just this small selection that's really well catered that I've kind of talked about, or curated, really well curated. That I've talked a bit about. But in any case, the Bierstadt Dunkel is very yummy.
Yeah, cheers, man. Their slow pour pills, if you ever see, is a definitely a good one to pick up.
I think it was there. I think I just went with Dunkel because I just wanted. I just like Dunkels, but I'll have to get the slow pour pills. Yeah.
Well, how is the taste?
It's really nice. Yeah, I think it's really really good. It makes me think of like who are they from? Matt, is it Suarez out of New York?
Yep, Suarez.
Like just really high quality, like really well done traditional styles. I will say I think it's not quite as good as was it a Dunkel? There was something I had in Prague that was like very similar to this style. That was, I think, a little better. But this is really good. So
all right,
yeah.
Colin, what do you got?
Let me bring it over as I'm eating my pretzels. Resident Culture.
Very good.
This is a single B-Day gift from Toddy. But yeah, it's called Forever Alone. Here's what it looks like. You can see my gummies at the bottom.
Oh, that's right.
Nobody wrote in, so I don't think anybody was too upset with it. But
I got to try that soon. I've been going through old sours and stouts and barley wine, so I haven't had a chance to really try it. But
It would potentially be good with a sour if you could match the the flavor or get a good mix with the flavor. Like with an IPA, it doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Nice.
And oh yeah, this is an IPA, hazy. It's very good. 4.25.
All right.
Sweet. And Matt, you already said when you took a sip.
Yeah, so I have a very special beer that's been sitting in my cellar for a little bit. A little bit of backstory. The brewery, it's a catnip for beer nerds brewery. It's called Anchorage Brewing Company in Anchorage, and they are primarily known
Is that in
for.
Russia? Sorry.
Is that like a Sarah Palin joke or something? Okay, all
Oh,
right. Okay.
I was very confused for a second. Like, anyway, threw me off my game there. Okay, so Anchorage brews a barley wine series called "Deal with the Devil," and it was always very well regarded as like a very, very, very good barley wine, very sweet, caramely, malty. But then, like the third or fourth year that they released it, they released a double oaked version where they aged it in bourbon barrels, and then they aged it a second round in freshly dumped Woodford Reserve double oak bourbon barrels.
Ooh.
And it like blew up. Like people absolutely loved the beer. It was like the hot ticket. Everyone wanted it. Everyone was trading for it. The bottle itself retailed for $50, and people would be paying 10 times that for the bottles. It was
Oh my god.
and so they continued to release different versions of it. They would release a triple oaked where they, which I got to try that. They aged it in 3 different bourbon barrels, like take it out of one, put it in the next to try and get more of that bourbony flavor. They did a box set where they did, different blends like cognac and bourbon. Like, and the box, it was like 5 different beers. It was like $300. It came in this like laser engraved box. I had people from my beer circles in Cleveland who flew to Alaska to wait in line to get it, which is like,
holy fuck.
yeah. Because I think part of it was a dick swing clout type thing, like, oh, look what I got. And part of it was some people thought they could legitimately, like, if they could score 2 or 3, they could resell one and pay for their trip.
Yeah.
And then, which is also
fascinating.
Yeah. But so it's not, it's a little more widely available now, which is really, really nice. This one actually was on the shelf at my local beer store, which I asked the beer buyer there, like, hey, how did you get this? Like this is amazing. I know it's easier to get now, but that's still like not a easy beer to come by. And I had to pay, I think $70 for it.
For that one little bottle right there?
One bottle, yeah.
Yeah, not even 750 milliliters. Like, that's like a 12-ounce bottle.
375 milliliters.
Holy shit.
This was a couple years ago when I was flush with cash and more stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, double oaked barley wine aged for 7 months in Heaven Hill bourbon barrels, then transferred to freshly emptied Woodford Reserve double oak barrels for an additional 9 months. So,
hell yeah,
this is a really, really cool artwork on it. This is kind of an updated version, but it's like a devil and a skeleton, and so I don't know. There's probably some backstory at the brewery as to why they have that name. The beer I drank, Colin, earlier this week that you were commenting on was called "The Deal with Evil," where Anchorage teamed up with Evil Twin Brewing. They each brewed like a barley wine, and then they like traded half the batch. So Anchorage sent half of their Deal with the Devil batch to Evil Twin. Evil Twin sent half of their batch to Anchorage. They aged it and then blended it and sold it. That was good, but not nearly as good as this. Now this is, again, because it's got a lot of bourbon aging in there. It's 17%.
Oh boy! Oh, we're gonna get some frisky Matt by the end of the show. Hell yeah!
It's a small bottle, but yeah. Now the other barley wine I still have in the basement, which maybe I'll save for a show, maybe I won't. It's a 20-ounce bottle, and it's 20%.
Oh,
Yeah, that's I don't know what I'm going to do with that one.
yeah.
That was freeze distilled to make that raise the alcohol content of that because yeast will die at like 17%. So
Okay.
um,
Interesting.
so anyway, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good. Not a beer I would have often. When I bought it, I really thought it would be something I would be bringing to a share with a bunch of people. Like this is definitely hey, look what I found, and split it up with everyone. But um, in the spirit of moving and trying to drink through my cellar and not buy any additional beer, still haven't really bought any beer since December. I figured,
Wow.
what the hell? This is the time to do it.
Definitely. And what's it going to get? I mean, there's some big bucks on this one. What's going to be the Matt Root score here?
Honestly, either a 4.25 or a 4.5.
Okay. So
We'll see. Like it's
it's a
not.
great beer, but the price tag comes more from the exclusivity, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, and Anchorage beers are in general very expensive. They've got a series of stouts that are very very good, but are like $50 a bottle.
It's that
If
Russian
they're
tax.
if they're if they're if their 4 packs ever make it down to the beer store, it's like $30 for a 4 pack. So
Yeah. It's a shame you couldn't hold on to it to share it with Colin and me because we're barley wine experts. We got Druid fluid like 11 years ago when we didn't know fucking anything about anything.
I still couldn't believe that. I mean, I can save that
No.
20%er.
Well, I mean, if you want, I mean, that does sound like a good Sharon beer, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a barley wine probably since we randomly had that Druid fluid back then, so I have no idea if I'd like it now. But that's funny.
Honestly, it's the style I come and go with. Half the time, like if I have like a big bottle of barley wine, I'll like drink a glass of it and then I'll pour the rest into like beef stew.
It's like sweet, right? Isn't it, Matt? Isn't that one of the
It's
main?
very sweet. It's very malty.
Hmm.
Depending if it's an American barley wine or an English barley wine. An American barley wine is going to be hopped, so you will get a little bit of bitterness in there. Versus English is going to be more caramely and sweet and malty. Um, and then there's all sorts of variations, right? Like people started brewing wheat wines and rye wines and like grain forward syrupy beers,
Yeah, yeah,
which back in the day had its use, right? Like hundreds of years ago, if you had a surplus crop, this is a great way to capture a lot of that surplus crop. But now it's just good for getting drunk.
yep, yep. Nice. Well, I know that Kyle has a new segment he wants to do tonight, but before he does, I have something I want to talk about real quick. Basically, I just want to sort of say, like Maui in the Moana movies, I just want to say you're welcome to all of the Yankee fans out there who have been driven crazy for decades by the stupid facial hair rule, which since our last episode and now, as we know, has finally at least been mostly removed. And we heard separately from brother Jeremy and cousin Greg about this, and so I'm sure many people were talking about how Ethan is the one who brought this on. So I just wanted to say you're welcome. I mean, I still have to say I don't know if we talked about this that much in our text thread. It's kind of annoying that they still were like, it has to be a well-groomed beard. Like, really, dude? Like at this point, like, can we just fucking let it go? But I'll take it. I'm still pretty thrilled about it. And I think the general reaction from the sports world is like, it's about fucking time. And why was this ever a rule? It's so stupid. So you're welcome, everybody.
I enjoyed the people who went out there and proceeded to Photoshop beards on all the rest of the Yankees,
You're right.
including like Judge, which just looked weird. Not, I mean, he's got a very unique looking face as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Adding the beard element to it,
It did look kind of funny on him.
He should stay clean shaven. And frankly, I liked him with the gap in his teeth. Good for you to upgrade your your chompers the way you want to, Aaron. But like the Gap was a nice signature too. Letterman made it years with the Gap. You could too.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Strahan too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And John Root
and John Root, the legend.
John, yes,
absolutely.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought Jeter would look weird in a beard, but like now that he's got one, I'm like,
yeah,
looks fine.
Yeah,
but I kind of always thought about Jeter the same way as Judge, though. I was like, his face just doesn't seem like it's good for it. But now that he has one, I'm like, he looks pretty good.
I can't picture A-Rod with a beard.
Yeah.
Has he ever had facial hair? Am I forgetting any phase of his life? Yeah, that I actually can't picture. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure he could pull it off, but it's like really weird to imagine. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, I'm only happy for it strictly for the business sense. I mean, I don't care about any of the other stuff, but like if they were literally going to lose free agents over this at this point, then like
do you guys buy that Hal said, "Oh, I really didn't realize it until Devin Williams came to talk to me."
No way.
Like, no, I don't buy that at one bit. Like,
no way.
Like, have you listened to the guy in your own fucking network? Cameron Maben's been saying it forever. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Also, bring back Cameron Maben.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't that great, but I liked him anyway.
No, I think it's good to have him in the mix, and also just the overall point of like, yeah, okay, they're all getting paid a lot of money, but it's still a really high pressure, like crazy fucking business. Let them be comfortable. Let them be how they want to be so that they have a chance to succeed. Like, we know Verdugo had a career worst year last year, and we don't want to blame it all on like facial hair and necklaces, but he did like mention it. Like, it did mess with his head. There, like you can imagine that played a role in it. And like in a business like this, why would you not want your players to be happy and comfortable? And of course, George Steinbrenner, that was the 70s, and he was this old-fashioned fucking guy, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, I still disagree with it, but I understand why he did it then. But like as a general rule now, like, yeah, just you want your guys to be fucking happy and comfortable. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. So
I don't know, maybe it'll I still feel like, even though there's obviously more, everything, facial hair, tattoos, piercings, long hair, whatever it is, there's more of it, than there ever was. But there's also more people, but I still feel like there's a section of corporate America, which we all love on this show, where like, you gotta tuck that hair into your collar, or you have to be clean shaven and whatever. And they said on the podcast, that was the Yankees thing. They were like the corporate Yankees and whatever. And I wonder, like, what could, I doubt it, because baseball just doesn't have the same same type of cultural sway as it used to. But like, can you imagine if this had kind of like, if the rule had gone into place in the 20s, right, or whatever, and then Steinbrenner was the one who got rid of it in the 70s, like, we already had wild like haircuts in baseball and whatever, but can you imagine like the cultural shift it would have provided for like the rest of, especially white America? Because let's face it, it's a very racist rule too, and like, to make people of color have to look like white people, that's wrong too, with everything. So I just wonder, like, if this had happened, earlier, like what it did, it could like actually help the ignorance that still exists among many people, which is unfortunate. But that was just another thought I had around it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Nice.
Before your segment, Colin, you guys excited for future New York Giants quarterback Aaron Rodgers?
Huh?
No, I don't think I've ever been less excited for anything in my entire life.
Oh, that face. I don't know if Matt's still making the face, but my screen froze on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's really amazing. Oh, it was really good. Yeah. Oh, that was a good
I'm
face.
sorry about that.
So
I mean, what, the only quarterback on your roster right now is Tommy DeVito. So
Get those chicken parmesans.
yeah, not good enough for Syracuse. Syracuse Orange Tommy DeVito. Great, great for the Giants. So
it's so weird to me that the Giants became a laughing stock. I know we talked about that already like a few weeks ago, but it still is like just very strange to me. I mean, they were the fucking like class of the league when we were in college and shit, and one of the classes of the league, you know, and gosh, how far they have fallen in a short amount of time.
I mean, did they hire Plaxico after the gunshot, or was that during the Giants' tenure?
That was during their.
Okay,
That was right after they won the first Super Bowl
Okay.
with
What
Eli.
weren't they having an amazing year that year
Yeah.
when
They were
he
like 12-1 when he
Yeah.
shot himself,
Yeah.
and then they lost like 3 of the last 4, and then they lost in the divisional round to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally derailed them. Yeah,
Fucking Plaxico.
actually this might be interesting to you guys because we've talked about this a long time ago on the podcast. I can't remember in what context it was, but sports documentaries and just kind of those type of shows in general. I just saw a report this morning that so it was rumored that Belichick and UNC were going to be featured on the off-season edition of Hard Knocks instead of an NFL team because nobody wants to follow up what the Giants did. They don't want to get embarrassed, the way that Schoen and Barkley, what all that happened and everything. And the report this morning said that even Belichick's now getting cold feet about it. And what I was reading is like, they were talking about sports documentaries, like what's going to come of them. Like if we're not willing, when I say we, I mean like the teams and whatnot, they're not willing to give access. And I know you two are more on the other side than I am of like, they're just propaganda for the team or the person anyway. Like they don't really tell the full story most of the time. They're usually executive produced by whoever it is and everything. But like I love them. I watch them all the time, and I would be really sad if because of fucking Joe Schoen, who doesn't know what he's doing, like spells the end of documentaries as we know it. I don't think it'll actually get there, but it was just an interesting thing to be like, well, what if teams are like, no, we're not giving access anymore.
I'm just more. I'd say I'm more against the Jordan Jeter. I'm going to control the narrative because then I
Yeah,
wouldn't
fuck
call it a
that.
documentary.
Yeah.
I'd call it a historical recap, like a recap through the eyes of Jordan, right? Like, I don't know. I've never actually watched Hard Knocks, so I don't know if that's the case with those series or not. But that is where, like, obviously, Mister, I'm going to stay in the gym and shoot 3-pointers until I beat you, Michael Jordan. Because my ego is that, my drive and my ego is that important to me and that fragile, isn't going to let anything negative go, that he doesn't want in that story. So as entertainment, like, Colin, you said it was really well done. It was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it was.
So, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to say, documentary, more like autobiographical movie, that's where I hope this doesn't mean the end of sports biographies, but again, like it's like calling Netflix Drive to Survive, which is the Netflix series that follows F1 drivers, which is largely considered what has popularized F1 in the United States. It started right around the pandemic. I watched the first couple seasons. There's, you hear the driver say, they're like, well, between selective editing and, Netflix deciding to drive storylines, that's really not what happens out there. And whether it's them playing up rivalries and fights or not showing the full picture or, making conflict between the general managers of the teams and the drivers look way, way more blown out of proportion than it is. Right? Like you look at someone like, and this is diving into F1 too much, but like Gunter Steiner, who was very well respected in racing, who was leading the Haas F1 team, which was an American team, which didn't perform all that well, is made to look like a clown in a number of situations. And maybe some of them are deserved, but a lot of it is also seems to be like basically turning Gunter into a fall guy, right? Like it, you have to wonder what are editorial decisions versus what are actually, what's happening within the team. So stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's where I'd say I'm concerned, but
Hmm.
yeah, I've never actually watched Hard Knocks, so I can't
The
tell
only
you.
Hard Knocks I've ever watched are like the first 3 to 4 episodes of the Giants off season 1. I could not watch it after the phone call. I
What was
just
the phone?
I
What's
didn't
the
I
phone
didn't
call?
even I didn't
Educate me.
even know that was going to like turn into this viral thing that ended up it was so uncomfortable. It was Saquon and Sean, and Sean was basically like, go 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 give us a chance to match it, but go. And obviously he did, and now he's the highest paid running back in NFL history after rushing for over 2,000 yards, winning the Super Bowl, finishing third in the MVP,
Yeah.
and everything. So I just remember at the time just being so icked by it, and for it to blow up in the way that it just. I've said this to you guys in text, and I might have even said it on the podcast before. I don't understand how Joe still has a job. Like I don't ever like I don't ever condone or advocate, I think is the proper word, like for people to lose their jobs, but come on. It's unbelievable.
It's fun because in sometimes endearingly annoying, I'll say how much of a Saquon homer and fan you are, but like he got to a point this year where it's kind of like, yeah, I can't argue with it anymore. Like every single yard he gains just makes the Giants look that much worse.
Yeah.
Both from a performance and offensive line standpoint, and also from a general management standpoint. And like now, give credit to Howie in Philadelphia, right? Like he's done a great job.
Mm-hmm.
But oof. And
Yeah.
right, it's not even like they just released NFL team grades last week, right? Like it's not even like the Eagles are that highly ranked, like
Right.
but still, you're not competing against a lot to get out of New York. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's both
sad.
New York teams.
Yep.
Or if for all you Central New York listeners, both New Jersey teams. Ugh.
All right. I don't know how long this segment's going to go because it might just be me saying something about it real quick. But Ethan, you've listened presumably to the last episode of the podcast.
I have, yes.
Yeah. Mike Schur, TV creator of shows such as The Office, The Good Place,
Who's
Parks and
Tracy
Rec.
Jordan?
Huh?
No, never mind. Sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
A Man on the Inside, which is also amazing, a new show.
Yes, very good show. He created a new segment for the podcast called Mike Schur Complains About Laker Fans.
Oh, Matt really likes that. Wow. Just the name of it.
Is it a dagger into your heart, Colin?
Well, no, because it's Mike, and I've listened to enough episodes, and I know what their banter is all about. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a seriousness behind it, but it's way different than if it was Simmons. Where if it was Simmons, it's like salty, bitter, like I fucking hate the Lakers type thing. Whereas with Mike Schur, I was like, this is gonna be a little bit of a bit. There's gonna be some real stuff behind it and whatever. Now, what they ended up doing is they ended up talking about entitled franchises and entitled fans, specifically. So this is kind of related to, I think it was last podcast or the podcast before when
Yeah, talking about
Ethan brought up
fandom.
the Luca, yeah,
Yeah, Luca,
and
right?
everything, and they're talking about the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Lakers, the Cowgirls,
The Cardinals.
um, Ohio State football, Kentucky basketball. They are hitting on every franchise, every program that you could think of, the major North American sports and everything. And this segment goes on, as most segments do for the podcast, a very long time. Probably went on for 45, 50 minutes, I would guess, Ethan.
Was it that long?
Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
At one point, I looked down and it was 35 minutes because this is when I first got the idea, because I was like, are they going to talk about this team? Mike Schur did not mention in his entire rant the Boston Celtics as an entitled franchise and having entitled fans. And I think that is the most ridiculous, overlooked thing that you could ever do if you're going to have a segment that long. If you're going to be a public figure like Michael Schur, you cannot leave the Boston Celtics out of this. And I just think we need to rectify the fact that the Boston Celtics have entitled little bitchy fans. And yeah,
I think you
that's
should
it.
invite Mike Schur on the show and have him defend his opinion there.
It's funny because he's a huge Celtics fan, of course, and he did
Mm.
mention the Red Sox and the Pats, though. Like he did
Yep,
talk
and the
about
Patriots, right? Yep.
yeah, he mentioned like the negative aspects of those fandoms, but yeah, he did not mention the Celtics. And now I don't know enough about the NBA, so I won't chime in. But I will say this: in his
The Celtics are the most successful franchise in NBA history.
right, but that doesn't necessarily. Well, I guess
Fits his. Yeah,
it fits
he broke.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, his basic premise, right, is that if a fan base that is like the most winning fan base in its sports history is like by definition going to probably be entitled, and I think we could probably say that that is true for the major sports. The one thing I'll say in his defense, at least in the beginning of the segment, is when he was talking about the Lakers and complaining about Laker fans, he had a very specific reason, which is he and his son went to the first Lakers Mavs game since the Luka trade. Yeah, Colin's making a face. And his point, his opinion was that the Lakers arena should have been hopping. It should have been going insane. Like what a massive deal this was. This was like this is a huge thing. Like Luka playing against the Mavs his first game after this shocking trade, blah blah blah. And Michael Schur says that the stadium was really muted and it just didn't have like a good vibe at all. Now, me personally, from what I have heard about sort of LA fandom in general, it honestly does not sound surprising to me at all. Colin, I think you've actually been to games out there, so you would know better. But my impression, both I think from what you've said in the past and just from what I've like read and listened to from other people, is that in LA, similar to Miami, there is a superficiality that exists, I think, to the fandom and to the people. So I don't know. I always get this sense that like, because I don't, you don't think so? Because I get this sense that like Lakers fans and Dodgers fans are just a bunch of rich Hollywood people who aren't actually big sports fans. It's just about status.
Well, so you're definitely not wrong, but you're not right either. So
Okay.
the Miami comp is difficult because the Marlins are just so irrelevant that
Yeah, they wouldn't count. I guess I'm thinking of like the Heat.
It kind of throws everything off. Where like the Dolphins and the Heat, like they have, I would say they have dedicated fan bases.
Yeah, but remember also the Heat had in the championship 10 years ago, they had people walking out
right
for the end of the game.
Oh, that's right. That was famous.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Infamous, we should say. Yeah.
Yep. With
And
Ray Allen.
They were speaking of entitlement, blowing up social media and pissed off that they wouldn't be let back in to go to their. It's like, no, you left the premises. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So
Ray,
I think that makes the point. They're entitled, engaged fans.
The Heat fans, at least specifically. Yeah.
They're they made the wrong decision that night, obviously. Whereas like in LA, I mean, I've been out that way a number of times. The laissez-fairness comes for the Angels. Like the Dodgers have diehard fans. The Lakers have diehard fans. The Clippers, they're probably more like the Angels, right? I don't know enough about the NFL now that teams have relocated there, but I'm sure they have pretty good followings. But, and this is where we should change the headline to "Rich Person Complains About Rich Person Experience." Staples Center, whatever it's called now, Crypto Arena, is full of rich people. and rich people are not getting blasted and blacked out on $10 Miller Lights like it's 1970 at the Forum. It's a totally different environment.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when the ticket prices are exorbitant and the only people who can afford them are rich people, it's going to be a little bit of different atmosphere. It's like what we talk about at the new Yankee Stadium. It's very similar. Those fans are just as engaged, just as diehard, but they have more money, and they're not quite as rowdy, as the fans were like even when we were kids. And
And a
things like that.
feature for the legend seats at Yankee Stadium too, having sat down there once myself, is each seat comes with a stick to put up your ass, so that you can just be nice and pissy and on your phone because the chair service isn't quick enough to you with your free
Yeah.
food. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
and granted, the last time I went to a Dodgers game was with Matt, and it was a Yankees Dodgers game, so there was a little bit of an extra buzz. But that atmosphere was terrific. It was great.
That's
Like
fine.
that was a really great baseball atmosphere. I don't remember the first time. It was 15 plus years ago. I don't remember it vividly, but I do remember the mystique of Dodger Stadium and those type of things. So yeah, I understand what he's saying, but I also think it's a bit ironic and a bit ignorant even to
Yep.
complain about it when he knows exactly the type of people who are going to those games. And it would be the same way in Boston if more rich people lived in Boston and the ticket prices were just as high, and everything. And let's be, I went to the only NBA game I've ever been to outside of Charlotte here is in Boston. And I thought the atmosphere was good. But like if he's thinking that it should be like, was at the old Garden, back in the 70s where it was dim lighting and cigarette smoke all around and whatever, like what the fuck do you want? Like I mean,
Yeah. What is your expectation there, right? Like,
yeah.
did he mention the Packers at all? Just as a curiosity.
I
Yeah, I
don't
was saying
I don't
the
think he
one
did.
Packers game I went to, like the lady next to me was like, "Oh, you're gonna be too cold, honey," and gave me hand warmers and the gloves and like the Bears fans at the end of the aisle. Like I remember, it was a Sunday night football blowout. Like the Packers just destroyed the Bears, and like midway through the third quarter, someone walking down the aisle hands the Bears fan a beer. Like, yeah, I wish it was a closer game. I'm sorry, and like what? Like
Wow.
it was the nicest, most fun, like rowdy, like when they played Roll Out the Barrel and everyone started dancing to their polka, like rowdy and fun, but also just like, we're kind of here because it's the community and this is fun and we like cheese and like it was the opposite. I'd say it was a very wholesome atmosphere there, which was a lot of fun.
How long ago was that?
Oh shoot, that was 2012, I think, 2012 or 2014.
I wonder how different it is now. No, they had just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe it was a couple years out. It was 2014, 2015-ish.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers blew out the Bears. It was a massacre.
Yeah.
And then also, just while we bring up Miami, I do want to point out that the Savannah Bananas have sold out Miami Marlins Stadium back-to-back nights.
Holy shit.
Yes. So Miami, in fact, is interested in baseball, just not Marlins baseball.
Suck it, Rob
Like
Manfred.
35,000 people each night.
And
Sold out.
and I don't know if I ever talked about this on the pod. Did I talk about the World Baseball Classic on the pod, guys? Do you remember? So
It was a long time ago.
okay.
If you did.
So when I lived in Miami, so this is probably when was that World Baseball
And
Classic? Like
You
2012?
didn't go to the United States Dominican game.
Could I have?
Yeah, I know you could have, but you didn't.
There must have been a reason for it. There must have been
no reason except you were lazy.
Well, why did I go to the Puerto Rico game?
I don't know.
Oh, well, I was
You
at
went to Puerto Rico game?
I was at
cool.
Puerto Rico and somebody, and I can't remember who the other team was, but was it the Dominican?
It must have been 2012 though.
Okay, it must have been
2011 or 2012.
Yeah, whichever year that WBC was. Yeah. But the crowd was fucking wild. It was awesome, right? I mean, like they brought in like various like whistly instruments and shit. I can't remember what they were. And like, I mean, people were going nuts, right? The atmosphere
Cowbells.
was amazing. Yeah, maybe cowbells. I can't even remember. I'll have to see if I have any old pictures from it, but it was like it was an amazing experience, you know, really cool environment, really fascinating. But before we leave this whole topic, I do want to say real quick that like I do like the overall idea of what they were talking about on the podcast. Obviously, they were focusing on the entitlement aspect, but not just the entitlement. I like the idea of, and you know, Matt's Green Bay example is great. This idea of like different fandoms kind of having different sort of deep kind of characters, right? And we've talked about, even though us three are huge diehard Yankee fans our whole entire lives, I think we all have a pretty substantial dislike for Yankee fandom. I would go so far as to say that I fucking hate Yankee fans. I won't speak for you guys, but I won't speak that strongly for you guys. I fucking hate Yankee fans, right? But I feel like if I were to meet certain other fandoms, I would automatically be really endeared to them. Like Matt used that word. I would there's a certain charm. And of course, maybe this has to do with my love for Cleveland, Matt, and how I had a great weekend in Cleveland with Matt years ago. But I feel that way about like if I were to go and hang out with some Guardians fans or some Cavs fans, I feel like Detroit fans there would be like a similar vibe. Pittsburgh fans, like there are certain cities where I just get this. Well, of course you would say no to Pittsburgh.
No, specifically Pittsburgh baseball. Just not very,
Oh,
very like Steelers and Penguins.
Penguins.
Yes, I think you'd love it.
okay.
Pittsburgh baseball. Their owner is absolutely reviled.
Well, that I know. Yeah, I know about that. I guess I just assumed that the fans that there would be like similar to Cleveland, like long suffering fans who are diehards despite it, which, you know, there's a problem with that though, right? And we've talked about this on the pod in various ways many times, I think, but like what bothers me about this idea, and the same thing would apply to like Cleveland Browns fans, for instance, is and Colorado Rockies fans, who I was going to bring up next, is these fans should not have to be diehards in spite of shitty organizations and shitty owners. We shouldn't look at them from the outside and be like, oh man, I really respect and admire them because they just really love their team and they love their city. Like, yeah, Kyle.
And let's define when I think what you're saying when you say shitty owners, we're talking about people who aren't even trying. If you're shitty in spite of trying, that's a whole different thing. Like,
agreed. Yes, that's
you're
what I mean.
Losers, right? You're the Cubs, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, like fucking Jimmy Haslam, just
yeah. And the Pittsburgh owner, he's like plenty rich. He just doesn't want to spend money on the team.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's. Thank you for clarifying, Kyle. That's exactly what I mean. Yes, owners who just don't give a shit, who aren't actually trying. It's one thing if you're actually trying. If you spend money and it's just not working out, like, okay, at least you're fucking trying. You know what I mean? But like that really bothers me. And so what I was thinking about is like this year, you know, I want to try to go to a couple Rockies games, and you know, I'm gonna like do some Reddit searching and try to find out like where do the diehards sit? You know, I bet you there's like a section in the bleachers where like diehard Rocky fans sit. And like, I want to go and sit there and experience a game there. And I wonder what it'll be like. But everything I've read since I moved out here is similar to what we're talking about here with like the Haslams or the Pirates owner. It's this guy, Dick Monfort. He's just a shit fucking owner. Like he doesn't want to spend any money. And any moves that he has tried to make have been just inexplicably stupid, like trading Nolan Arenado and signing Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant hit a 118-mile-an-hour home run.
He did hit a fucking bomb, so people are wondering if maybe he'll actually have a good year this year. Hey, fingers crossed, right? I mean, that would be great because if he actually has a good year, they have some really good young talent, at least in the field. I don't know about pitching, but like Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, and Ryan McMahon, if Chris Bryant has a good year, that's 4 really good players who, frankly, would be able to that top foursome, if they actually play up to their abilities, you could put that up against most teams in the major leagues except for the Braves and the Dodgers, in my opinion. Like that would be potentially a really good top 4 if those 3 young guys continue developing and Bryant has a resurgent year. So like they're actually, believe it or not, there is stuff that like could potentially be exciting for the Rockies. Of course, it probably won't work out. It's March, right? As Joe Paz wrote, everybody has hope in March. I'm sure it won't work out. Yeah. I mean, in April last year, we talked about, as Matt reminds us, Doogie being the next Paul O'Neill. So we know we have to be careful here. But just because this is my new home state, you know, I'm hoping. I'm hoping for the team and for the fans here. And it is cool that he hit such a bomb. Maybe Brian is back, but it just makes me feel bad. These various fan bases, not that the Rockies are necessarily the same as, say, Cleveland, right? There's not as much history, right? Obviously, the Rockies have been around since '93, so it's a different thing. But it just bums me out that there are these like deep, caring fan bases that have been suffering for so long because of incompetent ownership and
Our Uber
management.
driver going to the Rockies game was a diehard Rockies fan.
He was cool. I fucking loved that guy. Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to remember what he said at the end. Was Jeremy was in that ride with us, right? Wasn't it
Yeah.
the three of us?
Yeah.
And he said like, "I fuck with y'all, I love y'all," or something like that at the
Yeah,
end.
something like that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that was amazing. That was probably the best Uber ride I ever had. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I'd say I like the Cleveland example, and you've got like three different kinds of owners in Cleveland, right? You've got the absentee owner and the Dolans with the Guardians, who frankly try to do nothing and still somehow have a successful team.
Yeah, how the fuck?
You've got the inept with the Haslams and the Browns, who make all the wrong moves for morally and business and franchise running wise, all the wrong moves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Gilbert, who is a pretty shitty billionaire, but I mean, look at the Cavs now. Like, he's spending when he needs to spend. He's invested in the team. They've made the moves they would like. They gave Donovan Mitchell the contract they should, and fucking they're 51-10 right now.
Yeah.
And
incredible,
destroying the Eastern Conference. Like, they're eight games ahead of the Celtics in second place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I find Cleveland fandom so endearing is like, how many people were like, every time they've got a streak, there's a couple Instagram accounts that I have a lot of friends that repost, and like everyone's all in. Like, there's the eternal hope of the Cleveland fan, which if you could harness that energy, it's like greater than fucking fusion. Like, it's just the eternal hope of a Cleveland sports fan could power cities for generations. And that's what sucks. Like, when you look at Jimmy Haslam, because Jimmy Haslam's even Jimmy Haslam has sapped that energy and that hope from many a Cleveland fan just with his Deshaun Watson moves alone. And
the fact that Myles
least,
Garrett is demanding to leave now, that's a fucking dagger.
Yeah, but part of that, right? Like, more Cleveland fans than not have, like, that I've seen have said, like, yeah, I get it. Like, I wish you the best, Myles. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
I hope you can go
Get
win
the
it
fuck
somewhere.
out of here.
Like,
Yeah.
thanks for 8 good years or whatever it was. Like,
fair enough. Yeah.
It's just like, again, it's like, what? Like, he's the best player franchise has had since Joe Thomas, and you're happy to see him go. Like, that stinks, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to, maybe this will be the last thing we talk about, I don't know, but, talking about shitty owners and whatnot, I'd like to actually make some predictions, because, baseball season's coming, and the next time we record won't be until April, just so fans know. And so we'll have actual games to talk about. We won't get to talk about, some of these things that are really lingering out there and potentially very destructive for baseball. What do you guys think is going to happen when this current CBA expires after the 2026 season? Like, I'm kind of worried. I wouldn't say I'm like hockey worried yet that we're going to lose a full season, but I'm definitely kind of worried about how far apart the sides are and the anger, between the two sides right now. And, 2.5 years or a year and a half, whatever, seems like a long time, but it'll come quickly. And I'm not feeling very optimistic right now, but I know what I want. I just don't know that baseball's ready for it.
burn it down.
As that one
What do
kid.
what do you mean by burn it down?
Go on strike.
Strike.
Well, I guess it would technically probably start as a lockout.
Yeah.
Because it would, unless they do what they did in '94.
My my anti billionaire sentiment right now is outweighing my love of baseball sentiment,
Yeah. No, yeah,
which is
I
it's
agree with that.
more of an indictment of political, and economic, uh, conditions than it is baseball. But yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, hopefully my rants about billionaires over the years have also helped a little bit. But no, I mean, um, yeah, anything that makes the owners angry or unhappy is what I want to happen. Obviously, that should go as no surprise. And by the way, real quick aside, I don't think we talked about this on the pod because I think it happened in between last episode and this one. But I know Kyle's a big fan of Bill Burr, and I want to say that Bill Burr went on this rant on, I think, on his own podcast a couple of weeks ago, where
Yeah.
talking about like working families and working class people and how billionaires should be put down like rabid dogs. And I fucking loved it. It's worth seeking out his whole
yeah,
rant if you can find it. And I just got to say, like, I mean, you guys know I've been saying this shit forever. I just love that somebody with his platform, with his clout. I mean, he's a huge deal. Like he's really famous these
yeah,
days. I mean, he's one of the most famous stand-ups around. He's got his TV show and everything. He's been in lots of shit. Like he's a really big deal. So for him to come out and say that, and to say it as bluntly and angrily as he said it, I think was like amazing. I was so happy about that. But in any case, for the CBA, I don't know enough of the details about all of the negotiations to say too much, other than to just kind of rehash what we've talked about, that we wish there was like a salary floor and stuff like that to kind of force the cheapskates to actually spend some money, right? And certainly I would love that. But it seems to me that the political climate that Matt alluded to is such that the owners will probably feel like they are coming at these negotiations from a place of tremendous strength. And
Mhm.
I would not be surprised in the least if they say salary cap or nothing. And that if that will result in a lockout and a strike. I would not be surprised at all if that is what comes to pass. And I agree with Matt. I would hate to lose baseball, but um I want the Players Association to fight the owners. Absolutely. 100%. So if we lose baseball, so be it, would be my thought.
So I guess the part that I'm worried about is like, where is the common ground? Like where do they even start to come together? Because I do think that that's where we're headed, is where the owners are going to be like salary cap or no baseball, and the union has already said that they will never accept that.
Right.
So it's like
the
I
mutual love of money.
Yeah, that I think that's literally the only fucking common ground. Yeah, sorry, Kyle, can keep going.
well, but what is that though in practicality? Like what is that when I don't know what
Yeah,
that
it's a good
looks like,
question. Yeah,
because I mean the only way the players get more money is if the owners are spending money. So it's like, uh, it, it, and it's just so dumb too, because it's like so many of the politicians out here who, or unelected officials even, who think they are these great business people, yet they've been subsidized and given loans and blah
yeah,
blah blah and whatever. And it's like, capping what you spend ultimately hurts you in the long run, doesn't it? Like, I'm not a deep economist or whatever, but like, doesn't a cap hurt your potential earnings? That you can have, and whatever. So I just feel like everything is so short-sighted, and I don't know. I don't want to lose baseball. Like, I want the players to get what they deserve, but I don't want to lose baseball, and I just feel like there's not really a path for that right now, which sucks.
one thing that I think would be really interesting, and I don't know if we'll get more data about this over the next year plus, but I think, you know, and we've talked about this, and some of the stuff that is in the news about all of this recently is obviously owners complaining, about how much other owners spend and how much other teams spend and blah blah blah. And of course, the Dodgers are now the poster child of that. And of course, the easiest thing to point at would be like the Shohei Ohtani deal. Now, of course, we know that there's a lot of nuance there because of all of the deferrals and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it is a $700 million contract, right? It's this kind of unfathomably huge contract just in the history of North American sports, right? Not even just baseball. However, I think it was Molly Knight who wrote about this, Kyle. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you would have read it too. I think it was Molly Knight. Or maybe it was Joe Paz, but this is literally like a couple of weeks ago. I was reading a piece that was talking about how the Dodgers are already raking in so much fucking money every year.
Yeah, it was Molly.
Yeah, because of like Shohei related stuff. Basically with like various Japanese interests. Just in terms of selling merchandise or selling TV deals or whatever the fuck it is, they are making so much money related to Ohtani. Like that 700 million is going to pay for itself like easily is what it seems like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of to your point, Kyle, about like, you know, obviously you can have a bad investment. Any of these owners know that, as businessmen, as billionaires. But this idea that like the Dodgers made this massive, massive investment in Ohtani, but it's absolutely paying off, right? And I would be really curious. I don't know if anybody has ever done a study like this, but you know, how much money do some of these superstars bring to their franchises? Like how much money, and I don't know how you would track it exactly, right? Because it goes beyond just jersey sales. I'm not just talking about
Mhm.
jersey sales. And how do you track ticket sales related to one person? But like, for instance, the impact of somebody like Aaron Judge on the New York Yankees. Now, obviously, his contract is nowhere close to like Ohtani territory or Juan Soto territory. But I suspect, even though I think we all would agree that the last few years of Judge's contract are probably going to be pretty rough in terms of his production, I think we would all agree that it's going to absolutely be worth it, both for us as fans and I'm sure financially for the team. And I would say the same thing about other contracts, other kind of long-term contracts, where the players end up sucking in their late 30s or whatever. And I would just be really fascinated to see. I wonder if we will see any sort of data like that, before before the CBA is up, because it seems to me that that is kind of an important part of all of this.
Well, you can take Tex, who you were looking at earlier, Mark Teixeira, right? Like, just from not even from a total dollar value, but just from a 2009 MVP runner-up value when they
And the
sign
World
him to
Series.
win the World Series. I almost said Super Bowl.
you had that real strong 17% beer,
yeah.
so you can get away with it.
Oof.
Yeah.
Like some people would argue that that's worth it alone. Like he was the one that got you there, or he was part of the reason you got there.
Yeah.
In that signing. So I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to see that data. I'm really concerned that I really don't want the owners to get any more power. It feels like they won kind of the last round of negotiations.
Yeah.
You still see the shitheads in Pittsburgh and the Athletics, the insert city name here, Athletics, right? Like,
Yeah, John Fisher.
Like, I really, really don't want them getting any more influence or the upper hand, right? Like, and even the Dolans in Cleveland, right? Like, like, man, you've caught lightning in a bottle a number of years in a row. But I wish you'd invest in your team a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess what's most disheartening, I'll end on this, is like I sent you guys that screenshot of it was during the presser for the facial hair policy that Steinbrenner also took questions and talked about how he would support a salary cap if it came with a salary floor. And I think it is a huge disservice to baseball and baseball fans in particular that the national media isn't doing more to talk about things like this. It's fucking Hal Steinbrenner of the New York Yankees saying this. It should be front page news. It should be, nobody should be talking about anything else until somebody else comes up with a solution. Otherwise, that would be beneficial for both sides. And I've written probably 4 columns now for Yardbarker on the economic disparities in baseball and, you know, the CBA and everything. Every single time I write it, I get 2 times the average views of what is considered like the site high water or site medium. Is that the
Yep.
yeah. So
Colin going for that clickbait.
That's right.
No, well, I see the numbers and I'm like, so people are clearly interested
Yeah, they're engaged
in this, and if they're interested, it means they it's like we're talking about earlier with entitled fans or whatever. They're engaged fans. They want to know what this means for baseball and for their team, you know, in a year and a half and whatever. And I'm like, why do we keep talking about the things that are going to put them further apart when somebody as prominent as Hal Steinbrenner has come out with a solution that could bring them closer together? Like, I just did a Google search, Hal Steinbrenner salary floor. There are a few articles, but nothing from like the big time, like a Kenny Rosenthal or you know, Jason Stark or, you know, something like that.
Yeah, but
nothing from the big guys.
Yeah.
They're too entrenched with MLB to, like,
Possibly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would want to upset owners that way.
Yeah, because then they would lose some of their insider access.
Right.
Which I love. I love Kenny. Like, you know, I love Jason. You know, maybe we need a hard hitting piece from Buster. That's what we need. Buster to come out. Peter Gammons, where are you?
Yeah, it's like
Peter
the
Gammons.
Art Gar or the Garfunkel. It's like Joe DiMaggio. The nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Just put in Peter Gammons instead.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we got some time to figure it out.
Yep.
So I'm not totally in the like, oh fuck, we're gonna lock out of a full season like hockey did when we were, what was that, like 2005?
2003. I was a huge, I don't know if you guys, actually, I don't know if I had even met Matt yet, because I think maybe it was fresh. Well, I guess I would have met Matt that year. But I was like a huge hockey fan, like maybe 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I was like a big Rangers fan. I used to watch all the time. Like I had gotten really into it. And then the lockout happened and there was a whole season and I did not come back afterwards. I was like not a hockey fan anymore. And I bet you there are plenty of people like me. Like I mean, I was never diehard the way I am about baseball, but like I cared a lot, and I didn't come back after that, and that would be really devastating too for baseball because like obviously people like us will come back, but I bet you there are a lot of people out there similar to me in 2003 who, you know, would not come back afterwards, and that would really fucking suck.
Yeah, and you throw on top of that, you know, they just lost the ESPN deal, and who knows where that's going to go, and if streaming will take over anyway,
right?
You know, yada yada. But oh boy,
Yep,
a little scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking a little dicey.
Yeah. All right, boys. Well, what shout-outs we got before we go?
R.I.P. Around the Horn.
Oh,
May 23rd, I think.
Yeah. 4,300 episodes or 4,800 episodes.
It's fucking impressive. I used to watch it pretty often, I feel like, back in high school, or at least a decent
I used
amount.
to watch it a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big Woody Harrelson fan.
You mean Woody Page?
Woody Page.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Woody Harrelson fan too, but I think in this case you mean Woody Page, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Fuck Bill Plaschke.
Yeah, Plaschke's a fucking douche.
And
it was always fun though.
I remember the lady from Boston. I always liked her too.
What was her name? Jackie?
Jackie McMullen.
Jackie.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I always liked J.A. Adonde too. I remember liking him. I don't know how the fuck I just remembered his name. I haven't thought about him in probably 12 years. Probably 20 years. Jesus. But somehow I remember that
Jackie,
name.
Like, had very prescient opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy that show went for so long. And same with PTI, right? Is PTI shutting down also, or did it already? Or are they still going strong?
They're still going,
They
as
are.
far as I know.
That's
I never got
amazing.
that much of a PTI just because Tony Kornheiser would rub me the wrong way occasionally.
Fair enough.
I mean,
Yeah.
Tony Kornheiser was a crusty old man 30 years ago.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's hilarious they're still going. Yeah.
but like
Wow.
I give is it Michael Wilbon?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, Wilbon,
yeah,
yeah.
I give Wilbon and Kornheiser more props than like Smith, Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, sure.
At least
Yeah.
they have principles and ideas. So
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
instead
That's
of
hilarious.
like Stephen A. Smith is just loud.
Yeah, he's a sellout. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, fuck it, I'll take the money. I saw something today.
Yeah,
I know we're in shout outs, but I have to talk about this. Somebody was like, I'm so fucking sick and tired of people complaining about the poor people taking handouts, yada yada, when rich people take handouts all the time. They were talking about at what was it, the Golden Globes or whatever, the Academy Awards, whatever just happened
Yeah,
on
the
Sunday.
Oscars, yeah.
The Oscars, apparently they got these bags that were worth, everyone who went for free got $216,000 worth of, there was like a free vacation.
Oh yeah, the gift bags are nuts. Yeah,
Yeah, all this stuff, and it's like,
Jesus
so
fucking Christ.
why
I
do the
didn't know
three of
about
us
that.
feel bad about taking a handout every once in a while, or people who are even worse positions than we are financially and everything? And I'm just like, I don't even know how we got on that topic, but fuck.
That's insane. I didn't know about that.
Also, something that just popped in my head that I'm going to dump here and let Collins do over. Speaking of entitled fan bases, the one fan base I've heard talk the most about being concerned with reselling their season tickets and their fucking parking passes, and also leaving early to beat the traffic are Penn State fans.
Yeah, well,
More than anyone else. If I don't leave in the middle of the third quarter, we're not going to get out of state college for like 3 hours. So I guess we
it's
got
a
to
bunch
leave.
of old white people who
Yeah.
go to the games. Yeah, so but the parking and traffic situations are awful. But yeah,
Like,
you can make a gold mine off the parking tickets
oh
specifically.
yes, I have two friends or two say former colleagues who are more concerned about selling their RV parking pass.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were about actually going
RVs
to
sold
games.
out like years in advance. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh
So,
yeah. There's entitlement
little
everywhere.
jab.
They're definitely up there, and I take that as a compliment, Matthew.
Yeah, they don't boo nobodies.
That's
That's
right.
Yep.
Anything, Ethan?
I'll give a shout out to podcast favorite Giancarlo Stanton, who already has an injury that looks kind of serious, and who knows if he's going to play like fucking at all this season. So
Yeah.
poor G. After that postseason last year.
Love you, G.
Sorry, you reminded me, Ethan, because you were talking about podcast favorite. I'm going to say shout out to podcast favorite Schlabina and your nuptials. I'm going to call them the Schluptuals.
Ooh, nice.
But yeah, congratulations, Schlabina.
Mazel tov is what we would say.
Yes.
So mazel tov, Schlabina.
I texted Hannah earlier in the day, just like a regular congratulations, whatever. And then the Commanders made that big trade. She said it happened like 10 minutes before the ceremony was kicking off, so everyone was blowing up her phone. But yeah, definitely happy for her. I'll give a shout out to Brother Jeremy and the Voices Band. Talked with those guys the other night. Very, very cool. Very intellectual. A bunch of people too. I can see why they write some good music. And my final shout out will be to my niece Sadie, who I remembered during the course of this podcast had called while Stella was having a meltdown, and we never called her back. So we'll figure that out.
How old is Sadie now?
She'll be 2 in July.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah. So
nice.
All right, boys. Well,
we did it.
Come back. It'll be baseball season. We'll have games to talk about.
Fuck yeah. So excited.
Matt, you want to say it for me?
No, I was going to just scream something at the end, though.
We are.
Check out Charlotte Beyond the Major Leagues.
Thanks, Matt. You're such a mensch.
That is very nice.